Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources and, well, plunge right in to uncover the most important insights and maybe some surprising nuggets of knowledge, too.
Yeah, think of us as your guides, helping you sort of navigate through all the information and really see the bigger picture.
Okay, so today we're tackling a really fascinating piece of work you've brought us, H.G. Wells' classic, When the Sleeper Wakes.
hmm This is a story that gives us this pretty radical vision of a future society,
Yeah.
and it's all seen through the eyes of someone who, falls asleep in our time and wakes up 2 centuries later completely disoriented.
Right. So our mission today is to really unpack this future London that Graham, our sleeper, wakes up to. We need to explore the shocking scale of the changes and try to understand this wild power struggle he just accidentally finds himself right in the middle of.
Absolutely. It's a world with dizzying technology, these extreme social divides, and this battle for control that makes Graham's old life of just, well, battling insomnia seem almost quaint, doesn't it? Let's dive in.
Okay, so our sources kick off with the protagonist, Graham, and he's in a pretty rough state, yeah.
Oh, definitely. He's fighting this debilitating insomnia. Feels like his body is just this burden on his mind. He's resorting to pretty much anything black coffee, even cocaine mentioned in the text, just trying to cope.
Wow. So he's really desperate.
He is. Deep despair. The text says he's even thinking about suicide, standing on a cliff edge near Boscastle in Cornwall. It's a stark opening. It really sets him apart mentally and physically from the world he knows.
And it's in this state that he accepts help from an artist, Isbister.
That's right, Isbister. And somehow this leads to him falling into this incredibly deep, almost catatonic sleep. Maybe drug-induced, the text hints.
And he's out for 200 years.
2 centuries, just gone. And when he finally wakes up, the description is all about this profound physical weakness. He finds himself in this magnificent but totally confusing apartment. They give him this colorless liquid that seems to revive him remarkably quickly.
Because it's the sensory stuff that hits you, right? The descriptions.
Oh, yeah. His first perceptions are just this jumble, like a strange circular light shaft with a moving shadow, pillars made of polished ultramarine, this confusing noise of voices, a constant droning sound. It's utterly alien.
Yeah, alien is the word. And then he steps out onto a balcony.
Exactly. And boom, what a reveal. This huge space opens up below him, packed with richly dressed people, and beyond them, just this massive crowd. He's totally disoriented, trying to piece it all together. He asks, am I in London? Asks about the things he knew, the monarchy, the government, the church.
And that's when he finds out.
That's the bombshell. He is the sleeper. And that crowd down there, they immediately start shouting, "Show us the sleeper!" Instantly, he goes from being this forgotten guy to the absolute center of attention. It's bewildering.
And people try to hide him straight away.
Right. They try to manage the situation. He gets put through this machine, measures him, and fits him for clothes in seconds. And the language he hears, it's described as distorted, guttural tones, words he just doesn't recognize at all. He's not just weak, he's completely lost in this new time.
It's striking, isn't it? How fast he goes from total isolation to being the focus of this entire future world.
Absolutely. And as he's trying to figure out why him, he gets that first proper glimpse of the city, dominated by Wells's idea of the moving ways.
Ah, the moving ways. Tell us about those.
Okay, so these are vast platforms, 300 feet across apparently, all moving at different speeds, side by side, just packed with people. It's an amazing bit of speculative tech, completely changing how people move around.
Like giant travelators, but way more complex.
Exactly. And even here on this marvel, the crowd's still shouting, "The sleeper!" But also another name, Ostrog.
Ostrog. Okay, remember that name.
Definitely. He's quickly taken away by a guy called Howard into a lift. Howard's a bit vague, just hints that there's social unrest, and it's somehow connected to Graham waking up.
And they go across a bridge.
Yeah, this high glass bridge. And looking down, you get this dizzying view of the moving ways, but you also see fighting breaking out below. Men in red uniforms with sticks or truncheons attacking people. So the advanced tech is clearly right alongside some serious conflict.
So not a utopia then.
Far from it. He's brought into this place called the Hall of the Atlas, named after a huge white statue of Atlas holding the globe. This is where he meets the council. It's all very opulent, guards everywhere, and they start calling him Sire.
Sire. So he's royalty now.
Not quite royalty, but this is where Howard explains his new status. Turns out Graham's property, just left untouched, has grown through compound interest over 200 years into this colossal fortune. We're talking billions of lions, That's the future currency.
Billions of lions? Wells even made up a currency.
He did. It's not just like, future pounds or dollars, it's lions. It really emphasizes how different this world is, right down to its economy, which Graham's old money now somehow dominates.
So this wealth gives him influence.
Huge potential influence. Howard calls it great possibilities of interference, especially because he has these, quote, old world notions.
But he doesn't feel powerful, does he?
Not at all. He immediately feels trapped. They ask him to keep in seclusion, and he instantly calls it out. Keep me prisoner. He notices there are no windows, feels totally controlled, and gets suspicious that maybe this council is, cooking the books on his massive estate.
So he's like a figurehead, but locked away.
Exactly. Like a rabbit in a bag, as he puts it. Surrounded by theoretical wealth and power, but physically stuck. A gilded cage, basically.
And there are other weird future things, like phonetic writing.
Yeah, Wells mentions these cylinders with phonetic spelling. The example given is, Oi man who'd be kin for the man who would be king. Seems like books are gone, replaced by this. Maybe literacy itself has changed.
And Howard offers him company.
Yeah. A woman to, help pass the time. Graham is furious, refuses completely. It just shows how much social norms, even basic interactions, have shifted in ways that are just shocking to him.
He's a man at a time, holding the keys to a kingdom he doesn't understand, and locked up by the managers.
Precisely. And his isolation, his fear, it's building. This leads to an incident where a man looking through a fan opening gets injured, and that seems to be the catalyst.
For his escape.
For his rescue, really. It seems orchestrated by rebels. They knock out Howard, and suddenly Graham is fleeing through a darkened city. The council cut the power through snow, past these huge wind wheels. He ends up crawling into this chasm onto a ledge to hide from guys in red coats chasing him.
Yeah, straight into the action.
Totally. He's thrown right into the middle of a rebellion. Finds himself in these crowds, incredibly diverse people. Wells lists, bearded men, old men, youths, women, black people, Chinese people, all marching together, shouting to the council and carrying these things called green weapons.
Green weapons.
Yeah, it's not specified exactly what they are, but clearly the rebels have some kind of armament. It's chaotic, dark, real fighting. He gets lost, stumbles down some stairs, and eventually collapses on the moving ways, which have stopped because of the power cut.
And that's where he meets the old man.
That's the crucial encounter. This old man starts explaining the backstory. Says the council has ruled for 150 years, how they basically found the sleeper's forgotten estate, let the interest pile up into billions of lions, and use that money to buy everything, political parties, newspapers cementing their control.
So Graham's wealth funded the very system he's now rebelling against, unknowingly.
Pretty much. And the old man introduces Ostrog, properly calls him the greatest boss. Apparently, Ostrog's been stirring up trouble for 5 years, and there's this rumor the council spread that the real sleeper died years ago, and Ostrog is just using a look-alike, a substitute.
A substitute, but Graham is the real sleeper.
Exactly. And the old man even mentions someone injecting stimulants to wake him up again, confirming Graham's awakening wasn't natural, perhaps. It's chilling validation.
And while they're talking, the rebellion seems to be winning.
Yeah, they hear sounds of celebration. It looks like Ostrog has actually defeated the council.
So Graham takes a massive risk.
He does. He tells the old man straight up, I am the sleeper. The old man is stunned, disbelieving, warns him to be careful. It shows how dangerous just revealing his identity could be, even now.
What happens then?
Graham wanders off into the city. He hears the language, these mangled distortions of English, what Wells calls the dialect of the latter-day vile. It's another layer of just how alien this future is. He sees people celebrating Ostrog's victory, confirming the council's fall.
And the lights come back on.
Right. He finds his way to the wind vane offices in Westminster, and the city lights flare back to life. It's the signal Ostrog is in charge now.
And he finally meets Ostrog, the boss.
Face to face, Wells gives a good description. Tall, white-haired, dressed in cream silk, broad forehead, pale blue eyes, strong nose, resolute mouth, but also signs of age. Definitely looks the part of a leader, and he confirms it right away. I am the boss.
So what's Ostrog's story? Why the rebellion?
He says it was a battle against the White Council, the guys who ruled for 150 years. And interestingly, he says control of the aeronauts, the wind vane engineers, that was the key to winning. The city itself is basically the last piece of the council's empire.
But what kind of society does Ostrog want?
Well, this is where it gets really dark. He calls it an aristocratic tyranny. His view is basically that the best, the strongest, should prevail and the unfit. Well, they suffer and are extinguished, Survival of the fittest, brutally applied.
And Graham reacts to that.
He pushes back hard. He questions the whole idea of aristocracy based on the suffering people he's already seen. He calls it exactly what Ostrog said, an aristocratic tyranny, but meaning it critically.
Does Ostrog defend it?
Oh, yeah. And chillingly. He talks about pleasure cities, describes them as, get this, excretory organs of the state. Places designed to attract the weak, the vicious for easy extinction. A way to improve the race, he says. He just dismisses democracy, representative government, as outdated 18th century tomfoolery.
Well, it's bleak eugenicist, basically.
Absolutely. It's a cold, ruthless, social Darwinist philosophy presented as practical management.
So to understand this world better, Graham goes on a tour.
Yeah, with Ostrog's man Asano. And this tour, this is where Wells really shows you the layers, the contradictions of this future London. It's quite a journey.
Obviously, you see.
All sorts. He sees buildings for Christian sects covered in inscriptions using giant kinematographs like movie screens showing Bible scenes. They seem prosperous, paying significant rent. So religion exists, but it's commercialized, maybe?
Okay, what else?
Huge dining halls where thousands of lower middle class people eat together. It suggests the old idea of separate family households is gone, replaced by something more communal, at least for this class.
And these babble machines.
Yeah, these are disturbing mechanisms just shouting out news headlines, propaganda, random phrases, things like lynched policeman, women burnt alive, fuzzy wuzzy, galoop, galoop. It mentions a Paris commune revolt put down by black police, Senegalese regiments. Asano justifies it as preventing mob rule and, significantly, protecting Graham's property. Constant noise as social control.
Gosh. And the creche. You mentioned that was haunting.
It really is. Graham sees these rows of infants, tended by mechanical wet nurses with advertising discs for faces. There's no human touch, no embrace. The doctor there even presents stats claiming mothers' arms were statistically dangerous in the past.
That's horrifying.
It is. And you learn the general population is falling except among the labor company. That hints at something really sinister about who is allowed or forced to reproduce.
The labor company. Oh. The workers.
We'll get to them. But first, he sees the contrast. A dancing hall. Here, the prosperous workers, the middle class, maybe the parents from the creche are dancing, wearing bright, colorful, sometimes effeminate clothes. But watching from outside, excluded, are workers in blue canvas outfits. Pleasure is clearly stratified.
So only some people get to dance.
Seems like it. Graham reflects on how ideas of motherhood have changed and the sort of logic of pleasure-seeking when, for the rich, there seems to be no external danger anymore.
What about business? Is it all controlled?
He sees the business and gambling quarters. Intense activity, flashing ads, multiple levels, walkways, even cable loops for getting around. And crucially, he learns people are buying annuities based on the sleeper on him, paying out 17% a year. He sees huge crowds trying to buy in. His existence is literally fueling speculation.
His wealth is a commodity.
Oh!
And then the factories.
Then they go down. Subterranean levels. And this is the foundation of it all. Coughing men unloading dusty feldspar from barges in this choking mist. Wells describes them as pale, lean-limbed, disfigured, degraded. The massive brick pillars holding up the city are literally crushing down. He learns about other awful industries down there, tanning, brewing, everywhere. Signs of utter misery and exploitation.
So this is the labor company.
This is the engine room, built on human suffering. It makes Ostrog's aristocratic tyranny brutally real. The glittering city, the technology, the pleasure cities, it's all built on this hidden, enslaved workforce.
And it's right after seeing all this, understanding the true cost, that things explode again.
Exactly. The timing is perfect. Suddenly there are shouts, "The master is betrayed! Ostrog the knave!" Word spreads like wildfire. The black police, Ostrog's private army, have arrived in London.
Ah, the troops he mentioned.
The ones Asano mentioned were used in Paris. Graham rushes back to the Hall of the Atlas, furious now that he understands more, confronts Ostrog. He demands, "The Negroes shall not come."
How does Ostrog react?
He's dismissive, calls the black police just an instrument, says the people, the rebels, are getting out of hand, and he tells Graham flat out, "You're an anachronism. You don't know enough. You're too sentimental with your old world notions to be the master."
Wow. So Ostrog basically reveals his true colors.
Completely. But then the crowd bursts in. Maybe they sense Graham offers something different. Maybe they just hate Ostrog now. They start shouting, "Save the sleeper!" rallying around Graham. They carry him towards the platform. Fighting erupts, Graham's supporters in blue, black, yellow against Ostrog's red police.
Chaos again.
Absolute chaos. Wells gives this image of looking down on it, like seeing tiny toy soldiers fighting, a house cut open, men falling. It's deadly serious, but seen from a distance.
And Ostrog, does he get caught?
No, he's too cunning. An aeropile, one of those flying machines, appears right at the edge of the ruined hall. Ostrog jumps on board and it lifts off, just narrowly missing the crowd below. He escapes.
But the fight isn't over.
Not by a long shot. News comes in immediately. More aeroplanes are on their way, packed with Ostrog's black police reinforcements coming from France, Avignon, Orleans, Boulogne. It's desperate. Graham's side is doomed unless they can capture the flying stages, the airfields, basically.
So Graham's reign as master might last hours.
It seems incredibly fragile, yeah.
And Helen, Ostrog's niece, reappears here.
She does. She offers a different viewpoint. She talks about the misery of the people, expresses hope that Graham could be different from her uncle, and she reveals she was the one who organized his rescue earlier.
Ah, okay, so she's on his side.
It seems so. And Graham, maybe finally grasping the depth of the horror and moved by her, he promises. He says he will rule differently, he'll end the labor slavery. He asks for her help, and she agrees.
A glimmer of hope, maybe?
Maybe. But the clock is ticking loudly. The incoming airplanes are getting closer, reported only 30 minutes away from Bologna. They're frantically searching for Ostrog's hidden guns, something, anything to fight back with.
The tension must be immense.
Palpable. You hear people saying, we are losing the stark reality. Unless we can capture those flying stages in the next hour, there will be horrible things. Total despair setting in.
How does Graham handle this?
He snaps, basically. Just pure frustration boils over. Curse this complex world, he shouts, longing for just one blow. One simple action. He sees it clearly now. The revolt's too soon. Ostrog's too powerful. It's likely going to fail.
But then, a breakthrough.
A small one. Rebels managed to capture one of the flying stages.
Okay, so there's a chance.
Well, this leads to Graham's final impulsive act. Untrained, knowing nothing about flying these machines, he decides he's going to fly an aeropile himself. Maybe to inspire people, maybe just out of desperation. Rebels quickly help him get ready.
This sounds like a terrible idea.
It's incredibly risky. The takeoff is chaotic. He nearly hits the crowd. Once airborne, he sees another aircraft below a regular London to Paris passenger aeropile.
And he goes after it.
The text suggests maybe he sees it as a symbol of Ostrog's escaping power, or maybe just pure instinct takes over. He dives his machine after the passenger plane, but the other plane drops too low, maybe trying to evade him, and smashes into the wind wheels near Bromley Hill. There's a huge explosion.
No one knows.
And Graham's aeropile is caught right in the blast wave. He's thrown out of the machine. The last we see of him, he's clinging desperately to a piece of the wreckage as it plummets towards the earth.
Just falling.
And his final thoughts are this whirlwind recap, the strangeness, the betrayal, this weird paradoxical idea that maybe London was saved by this chaos. And then the ultimate question, shall I awake? Is this all just another dream, another layer of his long sleep? And that's where the text ends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hang in there. Literally.
Literally and figuratively. Wells gives us no easy answers, no neat conclusion about Graham's fate or London's future.
What a journey, though. From chronic insomnia to, like, accidental emperor of Earth for a day, only to face instant betrayal and then that fall.
Yeah. And through him, Wells showed us this future with mind-blowing technology, the moving roads, the flying machines, instant communication, even hypnoeducation. But it existed right alongside this incredibly deep inequality, horrific exploitation by trusts like the labor company, and the society just built on control and, well, stratified pleasure used almost as a weapon.
The contrast is just staggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
The shiny, convenient city upstairs for the rich, and that miserable, degraded, almost subhuman existence for the workers down below.
Absolutely. And the power struggle, the old council versus the ruthless Ostrog, both using the sleeper Graham as the symbol, the source of legitimacy, it really shows how concentrated wealth just reshapes everything, reinforces its own power.
It makes you ask those big questions Wells was clearly wrestling with over a century ago. Does technological progress automatically make things better?
Right.
Does it lead to fairness? Or can it just amplify the power imbalances that are already there?
Exactly. What's the real human price for all that convenience and pleasure enjoyed by a few if it's built on the suffering and degradation of so many others?
And what about Graham himself? Was he ever really in control? Was he a potential revolutionary or just a pawn? Did his brief, confusing moment as master actually change anything against these huge, entrenched forces?
Wells leaves us right there, with that powerful, incredibly uncertain image of the sleeper falling out of the sky. No neat resolution, just this future teetering.
Yeah. And he leaves us kind of teetering there too, doesn't he? Wondering not just about Graham, but about any society that builds itself on such deep, brutal divisions.
So thinking about Wells's vision from way back then, what does it make you think about the path our own world might be on today?